everything.
But even if they could have a kind of a launch attack, it was from so far away that they couldn't. None of them had that technology.
I think it's better that.
However, neither could the Syrian government have done that. He said this. This is the interesting part now. He said it may have been someone. We don't know for sure. It could have been someone from outside of Syria. It doesn't have to have been the rebels.
How did they get a plane inside Syria?
It wasn't necessarily launched from a plane. He thinks that it was put there. In fact, he went there. He went to the site.
There is video footage of barrels being dropped.
No, there
Barrels
wasn't.
of chemical weapons.
Oh, there was an explosion after they land.
Why would they barrel?
That's not a chemical weapon. We're talking about chemical weapons here.
Yeah, but they go back and they inspect the site afterwards. You know,
They inspected it. The United Nations went back and inspected it. They found no evidence of chemical
oh,
weapons.
absolute rubbish. The UN have said that they have used chemical weapons in Iraq.
No, they haven't. No, that's not true. That's
Yes,
not
they
true.
have.
That's not true.
You've got
Please get
people.
your facts.
You have got dead people with foam all over their mouth,
No.
which is a sign of a certain type of nerve agent that was used. It's chemical weapons.
That's
So
rubbish.
your view is that they're not using chemical weapons in Syria.
That
You're
was-
going to be an apologist for Assad, are you?
No, that's not what he's saying. You should have enough
I'm
sense
not an
to
Assad
realise.
apologist.
You
Not
should
at all.
have enough to
I think
realise
he's a monster.
These were
Right.
set up photographs.
So you're an apologist for the Russians.
You're getting fit
You're
like Jeremy
opposing the
Corbyn.
Russian
You're getting fit
intervention
like
here?
Jeremy Corbyn, eh?
Yeah. Are you opposing
He's old,
Russian
old
intervention?
Corbyn is getting fit.
In Syria.
Not interested in your extreme.
Oh, we've got it.
Right wing, I'm a
No,
member of the Labour Party. Are you a member of the Labour Party?
No,
Right, well,
no,
tell me in
Syrian,
I'm a member of the
Syrian,
Labour Party.
Assad,
You're against Corbyn.
the rebels.
I'm against Corbyn. That doesn't
But
make me
but why
extreme
is
right.
it so easy
Doesn't make
for
me
you
extreme
to
right.
call
You wanna
Assad a
withdraw that?
monster, but
What kind of
not
Labour Party member are you to call a fellow Labour Party member
Right, so
extreme
you're
right?
against
Get grow up. You're the problem. You're the problem. Right. How come the Labour Party and Corbyn are using gagging orders when John McDonnell wants to ban them when he comes in? What kind of Labour Party is it
Where did
using?
you get your facts from? Where did you get your facts from?
You'll see. You'll see.
I'm not going to argue.
Yeah, because you can't argue. You can't argue. You can't argue. You think Corbyn is God or something?
No, I don't.
Yes, you do.
I know Corbyn is not an anti-Semite.
He is an anti-Semite. He's a philosophical anti-Semite. Go and read the book.
Where's the facts?
Right. David Hirsch has written a book called You Left Anti-Semitism. Have you read it? Have you read it? Right. Well, go and look at the evidence. Go and look at the evidence. His speeches. No. Go and educate yourself. If you want to make statements like Jeremy Corbyn is an anti-Semite, go and read the evidence. Go and read the evidence. You just support Jeremy Corbyn, whatever he does.
Who is this guy Hirsch?
Jeremy Corbyn could rape his wife and you would support
Who
him.
is Hirsch? Who's Hirsch?
Sorry?
Hirsch?
Oh, you don't know? Go. Look, I've clearly said it to everyone here. The book is called New Left Anti-Semitism. The guy's name is David Hirsch. He's a historian. He's an ex-member of the Labour Party, and he's Jewish. But he's secular.
Well, so am I. I'm a second Jewish.
Right. So
I
maybe
know,
you might
but
find
he's
something.
also-
Maybe you might find something to
but he's
educate
also-
yourself.
he's secular,
Educate
but he's
yourself.
also a Zionist.
Instead of giving people blind support, educate yourself.
People like you and him.
Yeah. And I'm a member of the extreme right. You should pick your enemies more carefully, my friend. You should pick your enemies more carefully. Pick your enemies more carefully. You're going to need my vote in the general election.
It's so significant that the
But by the time the general election, you'll have gone off and joined the Workers' Revolutionary Party or some other bunch of fuckwits.
The numerous academics think that this is a genuine.
Numerous academics. What does that mean?
Like people who have studied, like I mentioned Theodore Postol. He's a leading MIT student of ballistic missiles.
Wow.
That's one very significant voice.
Ballistic missiles.
He's a ballistics professor.
Yeah,
You can
how
find
many
out about-
ballistic weapons have they used in Syria?
When you launch a barrel bomb on someone, I think
That's not ballistic. So he's so-called expert on ballistics isn't a great expert on barrel bombs, then is he?
What's a barrel bomb? Why should I use a
course it's a
barrel?
ballistic
What's a
missile.
barrel
Well, I'll tell you why. Because if you are, he said numerous academics. The academic he quoted.
Like, what's a barrel
The
bomb?
academic he quoted.
What's a barrel bomb?
It's a bomb that you drop bullseye. It's not hasn't got a ballistic
you can launch it.
capability.
You can
Why
launch it
would
from
you
a catapult.
go?
Yeah,
and
the
drop a
catapult
barrel
is the
bomb
ballistic,
with a
but it
helicopter?
doesn't have a fuel cell in it, does it?
You can launch it from a
Doesn't
cannon as
have a
well.
fuel cell in it,
You can
does
launch
it?
it from a kind of missile as
Doesn't
well.
have a fuel cell, does it?
I don't know, I'm not sure.
That doesn't make it, that means it's not ballistic. A ballistic system is something that has its own independent fuel system and can travel great distances. Yeah, a barrel bomb is not ballistic.
It's a minor point.
Oh, well, it is when you're talking about great academics on ballistic weapons who knows nothing about barrel bombs, given the fact that it's not a ballistic weapon.
This professor went to...
This professor is the wrong one to quote from. Are there any other numerous academics you'd like to quote from?
Give me a minute, I'll try and remember. It's not nice when you shout at it.
Okay, fine, but you got the wrong one.
So, Theodore Postel, you can read his report. He went to Duma, the suburb of Syria that was bombed last year. He went there and he had a look. And he looked at the concrete on the roof. And the holes from the concrete, he believes, are not made by the barrel bombs. He found one barrel bomb sitting on the roof, sitting there as if it hadn't been dropped. And he found the other one on a mattress on the top floor underneath that. That's what he found. You can read about this.
I've seen the photo.
The media, there was also a doctor as well, Robert Fisk for The Independent, went to that. He speaks Arabic. He's a very...
The Independent is a wing of the Putin government these days.
He went to Syria and he spoke to a doctor who was there. He asked him what happened at the site. The doctor believed it wasn't a chemical attack that made all these people in that video foaming at the mouth.
And other doctors disagree.
That doctor said what had happened was hypoxia. You don't get enough oxygen. It's a very common symptom. You start foaming. He believes what had happened, there was a conventional missile attack nearby, and that caused the building to shake dust. And the dust landed on children and like young people. And these people got hypoxia, they couldn't breathe properly.
Bollocks. If that was true, that in 9/11, and those people who died in those circumstances with all the building dust would have had hypoxia, as you say. Absolute horse meat.
In fact, he even mentioned...
No, it's another discredited doctor with a quack idea to fit some subline story that you're trying to argue. The simple reason it's not being reported in the media is because it's not true. The fact is, the Syrian government, in league with Putin, are using barrel bombs.
Where's the evidence of that?
Our video evidence, the hypoxia, the people who are dead, the scarring.
Is that evidence
The
of
United
chemical attack?
Nations General Directive at the
They
line.
went there. The UN themselves went there. They've just come out with their own report, legitimate report, which said that this is...
I was given it today. Do you want it?
They could find no signs of chloride, for one thing.
Well, maybe that's not the one they used. Maybe they used another type.
You've got to, when you make a claim, the burden of evidence is on you.
Yes, yes. So your claim was this highly respected academic who we discovered knew absolutely nothing about barrel bombs and more about ballistic weaponry system.
So you know
Speak for yourself, because you might have discovered that. That might be your particular interpretation.
You said he was an expert on ballistic weapons.
Yes.
He is therefore not an expert on barrel bombs because they are not ballistic.
How are these barrel bombs delivered? They go up in a helicopter.
Yeah,
right?
and they're dropped.
And they're dropped.
Not
They're
necessarily.
dropped.
They can be launched as well.
Fine.
Why
They catapult. That does not make them ballistic.
An ordinary bomb. Why should
What?
it have to be a barrel bomb?
What?
Why would they launch a barrel bomb?
Why? To kill people.
But why not use an ordinary missile?
Choice of weapon. Terror.
Why
Oh,
would
so you're
they-
denying that the Syrians are using
Why
barrel
would
bombs?
they do such a
You're denying
stupid
the
Terror.
Syrians are using barrel
Terror.
bombs?
Why would they bomb their own people?
Well, they have done for the last
Why?
5 years.
Why?
Last 5 years
Why?
they've
They
been
work,
doing
they
it.
kill
Why?
people.
Last 5 years.
You're
Why
defending
would-
Assad.
why Assad?
You're defending
Go,
Assad.
when Assad
Why is a
was
member of the
elected-
Labour Party defending
Shut up.
Assad?
Shut your
Don't tell me
Shut
to
your
shut up.
face.
Assad
I represent
was
the Labour
elected
Party,
by
not
the
you.
majority
Don't tell
of
them
the
to
Syrian
shut.
people,
Okay.
whether you like it or not.
I accept that.
So why would
Actually, no, he's president. President. No, it's a monarchy. It's an absolute monarchy. He was not elected. He was not elected.
he was elected? by
Who is the
majority?
leader of the opposition, according if Assad was elected? Who did he stand against? Who did Assad stand against if he, according to you, was democratically elected?
It was a democratic election. It was a democratic election. Assad was majority. Whether you like it or not, he was elected by the majority. Why?
Who was the opponent? Who was the opponent?
Doesn't matter.
Well, it does.
What does it matter?
Because you said he was democratically elected.
He
He's
was
not.
elect-
He's an absolute
the
monarch.
Mixed election.
majority
Assad was
of the
democratically
Syrian-
elected.
He was
I
not
don't think
democratically
so.
elected.
Oh, really? You know that?
Well, who was the opponent?
I don't know.
Who was the
You
opposition?
tell me.
No, he
It'll
wasn't.
come back to
How do
me.
you know?
Because it's upon his father, where he took over. He was an optician. He was an eye doctor over here. His brother died in a car accident,
What I'm
and he
saying is-
unexpectedly became the king when his father died.
What I'm saying
He
is-
was not
You're
democratically
not listening
elected.
to what I'm saying. What I'm
Okay.
saying is that I said
Syria
there was
under
an
Assad is
election,
not a
Assad was
democracy.
elected.
It's never
Whether
been a
you agree with it or not.
Who was the
Any
opponent?
Assad be democratic?
Yes, it does.
Doesn't matter.
Yes, it does.
Was Putin elected?
Yes.
Democratically?
Yes.
Because there was opposition?
Yes.
You've never had democracy in
But it
Syria.
was very heavily crippled and stifled.
Who were the opposition?
Oh, various people he's had put in jail or assassinated.
No, they weren't assassinated.
Who was Putin's opponents for? He had a number of people who stood against
half a
him.
dozen?
There was that woman who was, a rather attractive woman who was a Putin puppet.
And then there was the guy who was shot in the head
Yes,
near the
just
Kremlin.
by the Kremlin,
Yeah,
yes.
very, very
He was
interesting.
elected by the people.
Yes, yes,
he's
under a
defending
very
Putin.
heavily
He's
elected.
defending
But
Assad as a member of the
there
Union.
was an
Who
opposition.
voted for the Queen in this country?
She's not. She's a queen.
Yeah, who voted?
She nobody.
Right, who voted for the Prime Minister in this country?
The members of Parliament.
Who?
Extreme
of
right.
Parliament.
You're supporting
Who was the
Putin and
last Prime
Assad.
Minister?
You remember the
Present Prime
extreme
Minister?
right.
The present Prime Minister, Theresa May.
Who voted for her?
The members of Parliament.
That was
Now, who was
Who voted for?
who was the opponent?
Who's
For
gonna vote
who
for
was
Boris
the
Johnson?
opponent for
Who's gonna
Assad?
vote for Boris
Who
Johnson?
was the Assad opponent?
Answer my question.
Who? No, I've
Who's
answered all your
No,
questions. You haven't answered one of
Who's
mine.
voting the Prime Minister of this country in the next few weeks?
Me.
Are you a member of the Conservative Party?
What do you think with an answer like that,
Yes,
Great
you are.
Fox?
So 160 of you,
160,000, yes.
are voting the next Prime Minister.
Well, actually, no.
Is that
Actually,
democracy?
hang on,
Is
hang on.
that democracy?
Let me just hang on.
Is that democracy?
Can I answer your question?
Yes. Is it democracy?
Can I answer? Actually, I'm not voting for him as Prime Minister.
Okay.
I'm voting for him to be leader of the Conservative Party.
And?
the members of Parliament then make him the Prime Minister.
And no.
Yes,
And
yes.
He will be the Prime Minister.
Yes, yes.
Voted by 160,000.
And the members of Parliament. And the members of Parliament.
The
Yes.
Labour rights with the Labour Party.
That he has majority in Parliament. We have a parliamentary democracy.
and will-
So, who was Assad's opponent?
No, you're not getting away.
You said Assad was democratically elected. Who was his opponent?
I don't know.
He didn't have one.
Well, you don't know.
He didn't have a democracy.
You know that.
Yes, because he's the king. It's an absolute monarchy.
There's a difference between a king and a president. He's a president.
Who voted for him and who was his opponent?
majority of the
Who
people.
was his opponent?
The majority of
Assad.
the majority of the people that voted, the majority of the people that voted in the elections.
Who was
voted for-
the opponent?
I don't know.
Let me make a point to you.
Doesn't matter.
For there to be a democracy, you should ask yourself two questions. Who is the leader of the opposition and where do they live? And if you can't answer those two questions with a satisfactory answer, then it's not a democracy.
There's no such thing as democracy anymore.
Right, who is the leader of the opposition here?
Corbyn.
Where does he live?
Islington.
Fine, that is a democracy.
it's
Who is the leader?
it's not.
Hang on,
No, it's
hang
not.
on. Who
It's
is
not.
the leader of the opposition in America?
Answer me a question.
Who is the leader of the opposition in America? In America.
No, come on.
Well, you could say it's Hillary. And where does she live? She lives in New York. Okay. Now, who is the leader of the opposition in North Korea? They don't have one. They don't have one. Who is the leader of the opposition in Zimbabwe? Well, they have one. But where does he live?
I don't know.
He lives in London.
Point.
No, it
Point
is.
is-
Because you know Zimbabwe is not a
You're
democracy.
saying this is a democracy, and you know as well as I do, and people are being influenced by an extreme right-wing media, which is constantly, every day attacking.
Well, like the internet.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Like the internet.
Jeremy Corbyn.
Like the internet.
No, that's not-
Or the Guardian.
No.
Or the Observer.
Guardian's against
Or the
Corbyn.
Daily Mirror.
They're all against Corbyn.
Or the
They're all
Independent.
against
Or
Corbyn.
they're all. Well, the Daily Mirror is against Corbyn,
Yeah,
right?
they are.
Okay.
Of course they are.
The Morning Star.
No.
Oh, we found the media. Right. Okay.
When was the last time you read the Morning Star?
When I was wiping my arse with it.
You wouldn't have bought
Just
it.
before,
You would
well,
have done fine.
70% of Labour membership is against Corbyn on the need for a second referendum. Why are you spinelessly supporting Corbyn when it's clear that even within the cabinet there are people saying Corbyn needs to get a grip?
On what?
Of his mind.
You want a second referendum, and what happens if a second referendum all great have a bigger majority to
We'll
leave?
cross that bridge when you should only cross bridges when you get to them.
Well, alternatively, go by road and don't cross the bridge.
So said Willie Whitelaw, and I think he's an eminently sensible man.
The trouble with you, both of you right-wingers, that you believe in
Well,
democracy.
you're a right-winger,
You believe
definitely.
in democracy, and yet you cannot...
What do you mean? You don't
believe in democracy if you think that Putin and Assad are Democrats. You're way away from what is Labour Party policy. What is Labour Party policy on the Assads and on Russia?
There is no democracy. Democracy does not exist.
In your mind, you just want an authoritarian state where you bow down to Jeremy Corbyn.
For leader of the Labour Party.
No, I didn't.
Right, so you're not a member of the Labour Party?
I am now, yes.
And if he was up for re-election, would you vote for him? So why do you say there's no democracy if you're prepared to be part of the next election system?
Good question. Democracy in one party is different from democracy in the whole country. There is no democracy in the country. There may be democracy in the
Which countries does have democracy? Well, what country would in your ideal world, past or future, would have democracy? Right, so you're pining for a system that you happily have in one party, but you... Right, okay. But you don't believe in democracy.
Because democracy doesn't exist. If I said democracy,
and you
doesn't mean it shouldn't exist.
Who elected?
Doesn't mean it shouldn't
who
exist.
The civil servants.
They're not elected.
Who elected the judges?
Who elected the shopkeepers? Who
We don't
elected the
elect
shopkeepers?
judges.
Who elected
Are accountable to the government?
They would be politically
Who
biased.
elected the
Who
leaders?
appointed them? Who appointed
Who elected?
Who appointed
I
them?
don't want to know.
The government's re-elected.
Who elected? No one. Who
They're
elected?
appointed.
We
Who
don't elect
elected the
judges
boss of
because they would be
Amazon? Who
politically
elected the boss
biased.
of the shops? Curry. Who elected the boss of this country?
Oh, the shareholders.
Are they the... So the shareholders have all the power, and there are people that work there.
Yeah, like the unions. The unions are big share owners.
Yes. But those are businesses, not democracy.
The unions are big investors
believe
in the
democracy,
London stock
If
market.
you really believe in
Obviously doesn't know that.
democracy, you would believe that everything
How do
is
unions pay the
democratically
pension?
controlled. Everything. Well, that's not democracy.
I don't
It's not democracy.
I don't know. No. Why?
Democracy for something.
Why should everything be democratically controlled?
Why not?
Because you have property rights. Here is property, and you choose to own it.
Shall
Now,
we vote
shall
for
we have a
changing
vote?
up-
I vote
Let's
that
have
I
a
have
vote
this
for the
bicycle.
change.
Anyone put their hands up in favour that I have a bicycle? That's 3 in favour.
no-
You're
That's
out
democracy.
voting.
That's democracy.
Oh, no, come on. Notice the property
Hypocrites,
rights.
hypocrites, 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 hypocrites. I'm a Labour Party member that you called a member of the extreme right. Withdraw it, and you should apologise.
You're running away with
Property rights. Property rights.
All right, let's talk logic.
But it never.
Oh,
when it's
Wait, you're going to make complete democracy.
absolute democracy.
Let's democratically hand over the bicycle to the people.
You won't let him speak. Let him say it. No, don't.
All he wants to say is Jeremy,
You're not letting him
Jeremy,
speak and
I
he's
love
going to go.
Jeremy.
I want socialism. Every 5 years, you get a piece of paper and you put a cross on it. Candidate A, candidate B, candidate C.
Yes.
A, B, and C are controlled by the media because they're the ones that
No,
propagate.
there are more than 3 parties
They
standing in
influence.
the general election.
Greatly.
There were over
Yes.
20
The reason
parties
why
standing in the
Corbyn
last
is so
general election.
unpopular today is
because of the media.
because
So
of
what
the
he's
media,
saying, what he's
right?
saying is
So
the
you have
Communist
an
Party of Great Britain is
Shut up, just
controlled.
shut up.
The Green
Shut
Party
your
is the
mouth
Green
for
Party
once.
is the Green
Because
Party
the
controlled
media
by the
controls
capitalists.
the whole propaganda system. They control the elections.
I agree with you.
Right, so that's democracy?
No.
Is that right? Okay, point made.
I agree with you on that point.
Now
On
to-
that point.
Now that is the point. That is the point. When he talks about democracy, he talks
So,
about
But you know,
What
fuck,
he
you,
said-
know, you know fuck all anyway.
Wait a minute. Oh, I know one. No, but he's right.
He's
We
wrong.
go to all sides.
He's wrong. He's wrong. There's no such. He says there's no such thing as democracy because it's not perfect. Democracy. No one has ever set up a democracy and said this is the perfect democracy. There are over 150 democracies in the world. They're all subtly different. The Americans always say number one, but no democracy has copied the American way of doing democracy. They're all experiments in governing by
right.
the people. Right.
You're right.
Right. So it's a work in progress.
Yes.
He thinks he knows what democracy
The
is,
ultimate
and it's
absolute
got something
democracy.
to do. It's got something to do with some dusty irrelevant theory to do with Stalin and Central Party rule.
Oh
and
no,
all
no,
the
we're
rest
going
of
too
it.
far.
Okay.
We're going too far. So you're both
Have
right.
you
Oh,
seen
the
Nick
most
Wilson?
intelligent man on
I
our
haven't seen him for. I haven't been down here a long time myself, but I haven't seen him for a while. But he hardly speaks anymore.
Yeah.
He's chilled out, man.
All right. Good to see you, Jeff.
All right, take care.
Hey.
No, come on. You shouldn't be even agreeing with that.
No, I agree what he said.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Let's
Let's see if he agrees.
let me update him. This is the Corbynista member, the old.
And I don't agree with that.
And I said to him, "Oh, you've got your bike, so you're keeping fit like Corbyn, are you?" And he just turned around to me and said, "You're extreme right." I said, "What's extreme? You know, get out
don't
of here!
agree with
How
you,
dare you call a fellow member of the Labour Party extreme right for quipping that all these 70-year-olds are now getting fit?"
I agreed with him that the media influences people when they go.
Well, rightly so. You know, you can't have a democracy
A
without
pure,
media.
absolute, clean democracy can't have.
Right, but he gave you a bad example. He said 3 parties. In the last election, there were over 20 parties. Are they all controlled by capitalists? And I give the example of the Communist Party of Great Britain, which stands in general elections. We wouldn't answer the question. I asked him, are the Greens controlled by the capitalists? No. It's a conspiracy theory that doesn't stand up.
You're right.
Well, why are you agreeing with me now, but you just agreed with him and shook his hand?
Do you feel better? Because the Green Party might not be influenced by capitalism, but if some thicko doesn't understand anything and he's influenced by the media.
He's not a thicko. He knows exactly what he's doing.
Him not. What about the other
He
thickos?
is he's part of the reason why my friend here left the Labour Party. These are people that for decades weren't allowed into the Labour Party, okay, because they were off, having some sort of communist fantasy, whatever. Now they're inside and they think they're going to produce some sort of, virtuous socialist
What got me is
revolution.
he would
It's
say-
not going to happen.
You love Corbyn, didn't you?
I do, but I'm not a Corbynista in the way that you want me to be. I do love Corbyn,
Do you
but I
like his
don't.
foreign policies?
No, not entirely.
Do you like his domestic policy?
Most of them, yes.
But I really despise the kind of spineless acolytes, apparatchiks who can't see any fault.
Yeah.
Right. And I asked him a question. What about the 70% of members who want a second referendum? You know, there's no doubt about this. They've been polled and repolled and repolled. That figure is standing. It's going
Do you know
up to
what I don't
72.
like about democracy?
I don't like lots
When
of
it's
things about
51%
democracy.
and 49%.
But that's what Plato said.
And what's the
That's
problem with
not
that?
really, just for a little few, the whole country's got to go this way. Like, it's not
But
fair
that's
on the
what Plato-
49%.
but-
but that's-
I'd rather it be a
yeah.
bigger gap.
That is a problem with referenda, okay? We are not a referenda democracy. The Swiss are, okay? But the Tories, for some reason, well, I think, it'll all come out in the history, decided this was the best way of deciding things. They knew going into it was going to be a close result.
Yeah.
Everybody knew it was going to be a close result. And we're now in the mess that we're in. And by the
You'll
way,
rem- you'll remember-
whoever comes into power, if it's Boris or whatever, the shit will start from day one. It will not be an easy ride.
Yeah, it won't.
It could be an early election. There's going to be a constitutional
That's what you
crisis.
say. You know what Matthew says? It's going to be first
Matthew knows fuck
that.
all. Matthew knows fuck all.
We're going to see. We're going to see. I
None of us
remember you.
know exactly what's going to happen, but we're in very choppy waters, and we could fuck our economy. You know?
Take a wonder.
We will see, my son.
Come take over everything from your humanity.
Come, man, say it straight. Man, don't listen to BBC. Man, don't listen to ITV.
Of God, because we walk in the spirit, and Muslims, God love you, you walk in the flesh.
Don't understand you.
That's why you cannot touch us. That's why you cannot put any fear into us. You can't work it out.